I want to try to make a quick video that doesn't last like 15 minutes, just quickly talking a little bit about my experience with sort of the spiritual awakening, for lack of a better term, that I had in December, and one that I had very much like it when I was 23. And it's so, this thing that happened when I was 23 is so profound that I've been talking about it ever since for 17 years with like anybody who will listen, because it was so crazy and then gone. I had an experience that was very devastating, and it was at least devastating to me mentally. You know, it was one of those things where maybe it wouldn't have been for other people, but for me it was. And this weird little event happened. I was on my way to the airport. I stopped at a convenience store to buy a Snapple. And when I sat down in the car and I opened the Snapple, I heard this clink, like something had hit the Snapple bottle. And I looked down and it was a penny. And I was just like, where did this come from? I had no idea where this is in the middle of this sort of traumatic mental event. So I just put the penny in my pocket and, drank my Snapple, went to the airport. And I was sitting on the plane, wedged between two enormous people. And I was like, just mentally devastated. I had my eyes closed and I was just desperately trying not to start crying in the middle of this plane ride. And I felt uncomfortable, and I reached into my pocket, and it was the penny. And I pulled the penny out and I looked at it, and the words "In God We Trust" at the top of the penny were like, I swear to God, they were like glowing to me. Like I saw that, and at that moment I just had like all these thoughts like downloaded into my brain. I got all this weird concepts about stuff that I never had understood before, or I had never even explored before. They just like, I was like, wait a minute, I understand that the emotions are a circle, and that somehow my devastation, where I'm at the lowest, like the next thing below this is emotional death. I understand now that right next to this is like eternal bliss and joy. Like it's a circle, and I'm like one step away from it. Like this, I haven't even explored that concept at all since then. I don't know if that's true, but that was like what I understood at that moment. And so when I got home from where I had been, I was just absolutely devastated. This experience on the plane or whatever just kind of faded. And I was laying in my bed and kind of like looking, I had two bookshelves behind my bed, and I was just kind of laying in my bed, just kind of looking sort of at the bookshelf, and I saw A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. I had no idea what it was about, and essentially no introduction to anything other than the book Creative Visualization at that point. That was the only book I'd ever read in this realm. And so I started reading it, and it was exactly what I needed. And it was like, it was very similar to the thing that I had in December, where I read something that was exactly what I needed to read at that time. And it was like, poof, I'm transported to a completely different state of mind. It was the same thing then. The devastating experience kind of just like disappeared. And I started reading Marianne. I started reading a bunch of stuff by Deepak Chopra. And I just had this summer where I felt so connected to God. I remember having thoughts like, I never need to have another person again because I'm so connected to God. It's like God is right here with me. I don't need anything. And for this whole summer, like magical things were happening. This had nothing to do with being able to create something yourself. Like this was a completely different experience. This was a connection with the divine, and I was in this just absolutely miraculous state of mind the whole summer. It was so profound The summer felt like it lasted forever. And so this all came to an end, sadly. One of the miraculous things was I was offered a job as a nanny, paying really well right at the time when I needed it, paying cash. And that job went amazingly. But, as the summer wore on and I was delving more into this stuff, I started feeling more and more uncomfortable. This is too different from the reality I know. This is, the path I have to go on is too different from the one I thought I was going to be going on. And I just started getting more and more afraid. And the child that I was nannying for was kind of a problem child, but she'd been wonderful with me, or my experience of her hadn't been negative. And I think as this fear started creeping in, she started displaying more of her problem behavior with me. And finally, it got to the point where it was, one thing was building on the other. I was afraid. I was sort of like losing touch with this thing. And at the time I was not at all familiar with, programming your mind or controlling your thoughts, or the importance of any of that. I was just sort of flowing through the experience. And so as things started to change in my reality, I made no attempt whatsoever to change anything mentally. I just sort of went with the experience, and it ended up at this one point in time where I was both becoming more afraid and sort of understanding more, really complex concepts, things that had seemed really ununderstandable to me, started to make sense. And I just said, I don't want this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a nanny for this kid anymore. She's making my life hell. That ended immediately. And she pulled me out of the state I was in, and now it's gone. That was one thing. And then the other thing was, I just kind of said, I don't want this. I want a normal life. I don't know where this path leads me. I'm scared. I feel like I'm going to end up, a nun or something, I just want a normal life. I want to keep, like working on whatever I'm going to do for a job, for a business. I want to just like meet a guy and have a normal relationship where like we yell at each other and stuff. And that was that. The state of bliss faded completely. I was completely back to the state of mind that I had been in before this happened. And I pretty much stayed there until 2 months ago. And this time, I have a different understanding. I understand the creative power behind all of this stuff. And there's really no going back, is what I wanted to say here. Because while you can let your mental state slip back, you will be chasing that thing. You can't unknow this stuff. And that's a good thing. Because over the last 17 years, I've created good with my life, but I've been miserable the whole time. So my message with this video, for anyone who understands what I mean by being at that crossroads, where you're kind of gonna, and by the way, it's an illusionary crossroads. You can't really go back. You can, but... And the other thing is, it's not really ducking out of life. It's like that saying, what does the carpenter do before enlightenment? Carry wood, hammer nails. What does the carpenter do after enlightenment? Carry wood, hammer nails. All of this is a different way of functioning in your known reality. And you will continue to fight with your husband. You will continue to look for a job or whatever, probably. But it's a different orientation to all of that. that makes everything work in a different way, and that allows you to consciously direct things in a peaceful way. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if I had taken a different route back then, but I just had a similar experience over the last week. I'm going to end this. Sorry, it's really long. Putting these videos up on YouTube unleashed a torrent of people contacting me. And at first I was really excited because I'm kind of an extrovert. I like people. I am an extrovert. But I'm also very introverted. And it was similar to that week where I was nannying and my charge started behaving badly. A lot of people started behaving badly this week, and I tried dealing with them from a different point of view. And while I succeeded, I think, it was so mentally taxing that over the last couple of days, I felt myself feeling those exact same feelings. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I'm in a bad mood. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to go back to, grinding things out in the real world and not constantly, just ordering pizza when I'm having a bad day and eating cookies and stuff. It's too late for me. And if you're watching this and you're relating to this, it's probably too late for you too. So my message is hang in, fight through. I'm through round 1 this time, and I will live to fight another day.